Hey guys, and welcome to today's episode of The Dialogue. I am really excited for today's content. As always, our mantra on The Dialogue is that we're healing souls one conversation at a time. And it is my hope through the dialogue that as I give this inspiration to you, that you go and share it with someone else. You guys discuss it, pull additional nuggets. Maybe there's something else that someone can tell you to give you a different perspective on what I've already shared. And you guys can pursue and stay on this journey of life and welcome more healing into your souls. So thank you so much for everyone that has been listening to the content as well as following the podcast. As you know, I recently just stated that all 82 episodes up until this point are now available on the YouTube platform. So you are more than able to go and listen to the content on that platform as well. And it makes it easily accessible and shareable for other people. So today, I want to talk about the curse of codependency. The curse of codependency. So I'm going to be 100% honest and transparent with you, which is always why I do step out and do the podcast, so that you know that you are not the only one that is going through something of this nature. So codependency, when I just looked it up, is known as a relationship addiction. It says because people with codependency often form or maintain relationships that are one-sided and emotionally destructive. Signs of a person that is dealing with codependency deals with low self-esteem, trouble identifying your own emotions, trouble making decisions, desire to care for others, desire to feel important to someone, an excessive sense of responsibility for the way others act, a tendency to fall in love with people you can rescue, and difficulty dealing with change. Now, some of those don't actually fully apply to me. However, I do notice that the older that I do become, it is an issue in regards to change. I used to be a type of person before I had my daughter that was so quick to change things. But then as I continued to observe myself, I started to see like change so quickly is not always a good thing. Sometimes it's more about an issue of consistency. Nevertheless, I personally feel as though codependency is a curse, because when you look at all these things and attributes that a person that has codependency, what happens to them, inevitably you end up losing yourself. You lose yourself. You lose your goals, your desires, your wants, your needs, anything that is pertaining to you, it's put on the back burner. I also look at codependency as slavery. I am an African American Black woman. Well, they would say Black because it does not say yellow and or light skin when you are choosing those selections on a job application. Nevertheless, I'm an African American woman considered Black. And when I think about slavery, that was such of a strong connection with codependency, because with slaves they couldn't be concerned about themselves if they were whipped and beaten for something that they did not do wrong. It was not like they had the time to heal their wounds, let alone physically, let alone emotionally. They had to be there for other people. Emotionally they were not in a good place. And they were used. Oftentimes, they were used for the benefit of another person. It also says compulsive attention to someone, fear of abandonment, lack of outside support, weak sense of self doubt, resentment. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Feeling guilty, taking blames for things that aren't your fault, taking on too much responsibility, not having a purpose or finding satisfaction in things, ignoring behavior that harms you, focusing on other partners' good qualities and refusing to acknowledge flaws. So, looking at all of this, I can definitely say that slavery was a strong system of codependency. I mean, we know that African American women took care of Caucasian women's children. We also know that women were used as, in the system of prostitution as prostitutes for their own sexual benefit or gratification of a man. We are also learning and have discovered that men have also been utilized, sodomized, sexually violated by Caucasian men, so forth and so forth, and so on. There were orgies, all different types of things that was for the edification of Caucasian people. And so now, as generations have passed, you probably have maybe 3 or 4 generations, maybe 5, between when slavery was abolished. And oftentimes that is not long enough for that to be pulled out of a person's spirit or soul, because we know oftentimes that when it comes to our parents, we have habitual cycles. I call them generational curses, where if your mom did it, your grandmother did it, your great great grandmother did it, your great 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 grandmother did it, and you can see a pattern that comes down that is not a healthy pattern. If it's a bad pattern that is destructive, it is ultimately a curse. And so in our bloodline, I do feel as though, excuse me, codependency was a curse, where the women were not even just the women, the men as well, their needs, nobody cared about their needs. Nobody sat down and assessed to say, hey, what do you like? What do you want out of life? What are your passions? What are your dreams? What are your desires? What are your goals? Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? No one actually cared enough about the people to say, hey, you matter. You're important. If you're not feeling good today, take some time to yourself. Take some time, some rest for yourself. I do look at codependency as though it is a cycle where a person's excitement can come from seeing another person in a good place, emotionally stable, their dreams, goals, and desires fulfilled at the risk and sacrifice of their own. And so it is so difficult to walk out of codependency when it has been your entire life. They always laugh at that phrase from Miss Seeley off of The Color Purple, all my life I had to fight. But if you just look at the context and information that we see from the book and the movie, Miss Seeley's whole life was dedicated to serving and pleasing other people at the expense of her own. Joy, happiness, peace. I mean, she had 2 children by a man that, eventually it came out that he was not her biological father. She moved in with Mr., and he was extremely abusive, as well as his children were abusive. Suge Avery was abusive to her as well, so nobody actually ever could see her. It was not until she got extremely much older that she was able to walk out of cycles that did not benefit her. Could she have come out of them sooner if she would have known herself? I'm not for sure. I know that when it is a curse, oftentimes those patterns are handed down. And when they're handed down, they can be hard to break. Not impossible to break, but I notice that a lot of people don't break them because when they come out, their whole identity has been consumed by another person. If that person eats, if they sleep, if they get to spend all the money or the cash in the banking account or the checking account or savings account, whatever makes that person happy, the person that is sacrificing themselves is going to do it. And so we find that codependency is a curse. And I look at it from biblically the standpoint because God does not tell us to love our neighbors more than ourselves. Now, humility does challenge us to look at other people, and look at them more significantly in a sense of, hey, I need to make sure this person is okay. But it's also in measure, because the Bible says that you should love your neighbors as you love yourself. And so this is one of the things that I am seeing a lot of as a mental health specialist, as someone that has dealt with people that have been raped and molested and sex trafficked and emotionally, mentally, physically, verbally, spiritually, financially abused, I mean, the list goes on and on. That person is trained. That person is trained like a dog to accommodate to someone else's needs at the expense of their own, and not even to care about their own. So you see it oftentimes. If someone's going to go through ending a relationship or something like that, coming out of a job, it can be challenging steps because that has become their identity. Like, let's say, for instance, a man, because, in my past, I had an opportunity to talk to men that were around my age, let's just say that, and they had did the right thing. They had got married. They had decided, hey, I don't want to be out here sleeping around anymore. And so they found that person they thought was their good thing. And I'll never forget talking to a friend from school, probably in like 2020. And he expressed to me how, he thought he made a good decision. He married this young woman only to get her, to finally get her home. And he said everything that he thought that she wasn't. She didn't cook, she didn't clean. He said all she wanted to do was spend all the money. And inevitably they ended up getting a divorce, which caused him a lot of trauma. Because like he said, I did not marry her to get divorced. I married her for forever. But he said it. And I don't think he even realized that it was codependency because, like he said, his needs never mattered. She didn't care about cooking dinner. She didn't care about, his sexual appetite. She didn't care about anything in regards to him. Their child also had I think mental health issues or some type of issues where a disability or disabled or some sort. And he actually ended up getting custody of the daughter because she was so selfish. She couldn't even see past herself to take care of her child. And so, codependency, he did what was best for her. He married her, he wedded her, he, changed and gave her his last name. However, everything fell apart because she couldn't hold up her end of the bargain. And he did say he overcompensated. He did say that he saw certain things in the beginning of the relationship that were actually warning signs. But he said he figured as he kept going on, maybe if he loved her a little bit more and did a little bit more and, poured into her a little bit more. I don't know if she had a traumatic past or not, but he had a soft spot for her in his heart. It was with hopes that she would change and transform, and she never did, which ultimately let him see she never cared about him. And so he stated once he got out of the relationship, it was extremely difficult because he said he felt like he did the right thing. And that's what codependency will do. If you do not have a healthy balance with boundaries or your identity, what you're meant to do and how much God loves you, you will get hoodwinked. And that's what I call it when someone pulls a wool over your eyes or makes it seem as though they are your dream come true or that they love you or they support you. And unfortunately, they don't even like you or love you because they don't even like themselves. Codependency is always a cycle of pouring into another person, giving to another person. We see it a lot of times with people that are on drugs or people that have addictions. We see it a lot of times with people that have gambling problems and things of that nature. Now, unfortunately, we see that a lot because they always have that person that they can go to like, hey, I need extra money if they spent their whole check. But I find it a little bit more interesting when it is like emotional issues and mental issues and with people that are codependent. Okay, say myself. I'm the type of person when I go into a person's life, I can give them answers and insight. God will give me something to tell them, or they just simply come out through conversation. And so what happens is they may take that information. A lot of people are normally upset by it because it's something they don't want to do. Ultimately, our relationship or friendship will end up dissipating or dissolving because they don't want to do, what's best for them. But at that moment and at that time, I've talked to them, I've given them space in my mind and spirit, emotionally and mentally. And when it's all said and done, I'm exhausted and tired. And what happens is they disappear. And then maybe 6 months to a year later, when everything is falling apart, they will come back around. Now, when they come back around, it's the same thing. So at this point, I don't want to continue talking about the same thing. You know what I mean? Because it's like I am interested in growing, and you can only take somebody as far as where you've grown or gone to. And so this has helped me to see recently, like, oh my God, this is codependency at its worst. Like, I was talking to a counselor one time. They're a mental health specialist as well. And I explained to them, like, counseling is codependency. And this is why they tell counselors to, and a lot of people don't take your work home. Because sometimes people are in such traumatic, difficult, toxic, unhealthy situations that when you talk to them, you're so concerned about them. You're not sleeping at night. You're not eating, because this person has literally set up a home in your spirit and in your heart. And so you worry about them. You try to see what you can do for them, how you can help them. And ultimately, when it comes to circumstances like that, that person has to be willing to help themselves. And so when you're locked into codependency, let me be the first, and I know I'm not the last, and I might not be the first to tell you, it is not healthy. It is not healthy when you devote all of your life and all of your time to making someone smile and saying things like, man, she used to smile all the time. Now she just looks so mean and hateful. At the end of the day, I've come to the point when I'm talking to women and they turn over into that place of bitterness, anger, and rage. It is their responsibility to say, hey, I'm not who I used to be. Something has come in. It has changed me. It has broken me, and I need to go get help. When a person starts to lean on you for everything, and I'm going to tell you why codependency is such of a problem, because you become their God, meaning they rely on you every day to make them happy, to give them joy, to buy them something that is going to make them feel wanted or significant. We know that any type of demigod, when people idolize a person, unfortunately, when they get disgusted with the thing that is no longer serving them, they want to do away with it. They want to get rid of it. They want to kill it. I mean, a demigod is already dead anyway, because we are in Christ Jesus. We get all of our spirit, our liveliness from him, being anchored in him because of his Holy Spirit. So someone that does not have that, they're already spiritually dead, right? So when you think about a person relying on you for everything, and they want you around all the time, and you can't make phone calls, you can't even breathe because they're just there all the time. That is not healthy. That is not healthy. And unfortunately, when people that are codependent, you can actually enable somebody like, hey, like as if we're so smart that we have the solution for everybody. No, some people literally need to take time to themselves to see, why do I want this person to be there all the time? Why do I need them to be there all the time? Because I literally just had a experience where I had to explain to someone like, hey, I don't have anything right now. You're going through something that I don't understand. I do not have anything to give. And the end result was not good, because they had never been used to me putting up those type of boundaries where it's like, hey, I don't have anything to talk about today. I don't have anything to say today. They were so not used to it that when I started to implement the boundaries, it made them uncomfortable. And I mean, they call pretty often, but I've already put up my boundaries. Like, I don't have anything to say, because at this point, if the only thing that you're calling me to talk about is your circumstances and situation, you more than likely need a counselor. Because I am supposed to be a friend. I'm not going to sit on the phone with you for enamored amounts of hours to discuss things that pull me down all the time. And so I am starting to understand codependency a little bit more. Like when you're a little girl and you get put at your grandmother's house to take care of her from the age of 12, right? Who is there for you mentally and emotionally? So you grow older and then you start to understand, okay, this is where I have the void mentally and emotionally because no one has ever been there for me. So I find that being in a space of codependency, it is literally, it will take the life out of you to be there for people like that. It will literally suck you dry to be there for people like that. It will literally cause you to be angry and bitter, like, wow, she needs so much. And you're just giving and giving and giving and giving. But no one is ever asking you, like, hey, what do you need? Are you okay? So those are some of the attributes of a person that is in codependency, as well as a person that is taking advantage of a person that's codependent. So codependent people, like people that know that you need something from them. Maybe you're doing it because you want to feel loved. Maybe in the beginning you did feel love, but now all of a sudden you know this is not love. There is no way that me doing everything for a person is love. That means that I love them, but it's not reciprocated. Like this person doesn't care if you ate for the day. They don't care if you got a nap or if you're healthy, if you're eating right. They don't even care if you eat at all. That is not a healthy relationship. And I'm not just talking about intimate, I'm also talking about platonic. Like at the end of the day, when we sit and look at everything that takes place in life, relationships are so important. They are so important. But the interesting thing is that we put so much importance on them that we'll do anything to keep them, even if it's things that we don't like and don't want to do. This is why when you are in a relationship, you can lose yourself. Like, man, I used to do this. I used to do this on Sunday. I used to do this on Friday. I can't even do those things anymore because it takes so much from you that you no longer have a life. And unfortunately, what I am learning is that this is what the enemy wants to be done. The enemy wants it to where he puts someone in your life that sucks the life out of you mentally and emotionally. They make you feel like you can't do anything right. They just step on you and step all over you. You are not important at all. The enemy loves when we get in relationships like that. Because when you sit with God and you take care of yourself, you literally take care of the God in you. As you nurture the God in you, more of God comes out of you, right? There may be creative ideas. God is the ultimate creator, right? He may tell you to rest for a day. He may tell you to wait on him before you do something. He may tell you, okay, I want you to start that project, but I want you to wait like a week or two. Like I want you to be brainstorming about it, but I don't want you to just jump into it just yet. The interesting part is that if God is speaking that to you, when you are a person that is codependent or, someone has latched onto you, you cannot even hear God correctly because they're always in your ear. Hey, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you be here? Can you do that? It's like you're like their personal maid. It's so funny because I want to know what's the masculine terminology for maid. Because when I think about maid, I only think about women. But no, it happens to men too. Men are exploited and taken care of and pimped out by women. And so I personally feel like if you're going to be in a relationship, both people should be in a relationship pulling their weight. It should not just be one person doing everything. That is slavery. Because we know in slavery, they had to, they fed them, but we don't know how often they fed them so that they could keep picking cotton or whatever else they had them doing. They feed people, or let's just say the person that is abusing the person that's codependent feeds them and gives them just a little bit so they can keep doing for them. So the end result is that person is still getting ahead. So we find it that we ourselves as people have to continuously assess our relationships. I'm the type of person, I love doing things for people. I love helping people. I love seeing people happy and smiling and jovial and pursuing purpose and identity. But there is a truth that oftentimes you have to step back. Like step back to see, okay, I heard someone say every good thing is not a God thing. Like helping, I love it. I love people being able to see God through the way that I serve them, right? But we know that spiritually times and seasons do shift and change. So as I talked about the one situation with my friend, the time and season has shifted and changed, and I'm not in that place anymore. A lot of people that I dealt with in this last season, it was more or less bonding through trauma to reach a place of deliverance, shall I say, and being set free. Because majority of a lot of them were codependent. And it's unfortunate that codependent people will give to people with them what they themselves have not received. This is why they're so good at doing it, because they know how it feels to not receive it. So say, for instance, you have a man that has never felt loved, never felt valued or significant. He will find a woman that feels the exact same way. And unfortunately, what happened is his significance will become if she feels significant or happy. But he never gets filled back up. Nothing is poured into him. This is why I say that it is slavery. And when you come out of it, it can be traumatic. You may have to grieve at the reality that, man, I thought this was something that it was not. Like when I went back and I heard someone say that we should assess our relationships every every 3 to 6 months, we'll say that. Because if you're changing and evolving, sometimes one friend may be in one compartment. Like you both may have kids together, so you both may be going to gymnastics together. Okay, then the season shifts and changes. Your daughter gets into a different activity. Her daughter gets into something different. You guys may still talk, but it's going to be different because you're not able to go to that same activity or function together. It's the same thing in life. You don't lose love for that person. You just realize we're going 2 different directions. But unfortunately, with codependency, that person wants to take you to the direction they're going, but it's going to lead you down a path of destruction because there is no goodness in mind for you. You'll keep doing what you can to please that person, being there and supporting, but it will never be reciprocated. How can it be reciprocated when you don't even know what you need? Because everything that you do is for the other person, for them to feel happy and content, right? But nothing is for you. So, I tell people sometimes in certain instances, it's okay to be selfish. Like in certain instances, you need to. It's called self-care. You need to be selfish with yourself in certain seasons once God is shifting you out of being the person that does everything for someone. And I am totally against. Now that I'm older, I see it. People want you to do everything for them, be everything for them. And it's like, we're adults. Adults take responsibility, get up and do what they need to do in order to thrive in life. But let's just be honest. You don't have a lot of that with people because everybody wants to latch on to somebody for the purpose of benefiting, which is exploitation. It is usury. If you want to be honest, if they're using that person for sex, it's sex trafficking. If they're using them for goods that only benefit them, it can be considered human trafficking, where this person is just in a cycle of doing, but never being able to simply be. Ladies and gentlemen, God does not want us in cycles like that. This is why he freed the children of Israel from slavery and from bondage. Because when they were in bondage, they didn't even know that he was so much more than what they were in. It completely skewed their perspective of God. And so when you're in a codependent relationship, they're not going to want you close to anybody. They're not going to want you close to anybody that's talking about liberation, freedom, transforming your mind, being concerned about you, your needs, or what you need. They don't care. And so you can find yourself in a place of mental exhaustion, physical exhaustion, spiritual exhaustion. It's like, it's even hard for you to feel like you're getting a prayer through, because it's like, why am I suffering so bad? Like, this is because oftentimes you don't want to walk away, or you won't. And I think God will give us times and seasons where He will have us in situations that eventually make us uncomfortable or challenge us to change or challenge us for change, all with the purpose in mind, like, you're going to come out of this. I am challenging you to come out, to find who you are, your identity, what you're meant to do, what makes you joyful, your creative side. And unfortunately, I've had the opportunity to talk to some wonderful women. And I went through a season as well before I started to learn myself, where it was like, dating, I can't actually say that I've ever genuinely dated. I've always had a male friend, right? But then when I went to hit a certain stride about maybe like 4 years ago, after I had my daughter, it was just like complete sitting down. Like, you need to reevaluate, you need to reassess, because I always say my daughter is going to see me in a healthy, holistic relationship where my needs are being met. This is the way that I'm going to be able to teach her what authentic relationships and love look like. But I myself, being either a third or fourth generation person that has dealt with codependency, and now God is so graciously breaking it. Oh my goodness. And the resistance from people to try to not let me be free is so amazing. The things that people are doing. I'm baffled. Like, I know that I'm getting free because the boundaries are going up. I know that I'm getting free because I just don't want to be bothered. Meaning, I know that there is context about minding your own business. And so that's what I've been doing, right? But the interesting part is that people that want you to be codependent don't want you to mind your business. Like, they want to call you and talk about everything. In regards to them, you don't even matter. And so I find myself in a place of excitement, curiosity, because it's like, I've never felt this way before in regards to not doing stuff for certain people. Because I do believe we're meant to sow seeds into people's lives. It does not have to evolve at that time. It can take some time to grow. But learning to let people go and make their own decisions and also experience their own consequences. And that's what I feel like codependency prevents. Like, what if back in the day during slavery, when people, the masters and the plantation owners, were reprimanded for how they treated slaves and they were all allowed to go free? Well, it did actually happen. They eventually would have had to work for themselves and see, like, oh my goodness, like, we wouldn't have been able to do this without them. It wasn't out of gratitude. They would have been obligated because they weren't grateful for their slaves. How can you be grateful for someone that you're taking advantage of? Because that's what codependency does. It puts a person in a position to be taken advantage of and used. And it's horrible. You ever see somebody that's being used by somebody and they're deceived to think that it's love? And everybody is trying to tell them, like, this is not healthy. But they have such blinders over their eyes and they're deceived to think this person cares about me. But you're falling apart. You can't think straight. You don't know what decision to make. You talk to that person about everything. Unbeknownst to you, they are giving you wrong advice, insight, and counsel that is not coming from God. Because if it was coming from God, it would have some sort of benefit to you and your soul. Your soul is depleted. You're agitated all the time. You just feel like, what's the point? You're like a mouse on a wheel, or a hamster on a wheel, doing the same thing every day. No fulfillment, no joy, no excitement, no nothing. Life is like blah. And this is what codependency does. It strips a person of life. and vitality and the excitement. It says the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. I really do believe that the enemy sends people that he knows they're not going to change, that they're going to suck the life out of this person. He knows, oh yeah, because they want this thing so bad, this person is going to take them for the ride of their life. But it's going to end up on a destructive path. There is a rush that comes sometimes from those type of paths. It is a rush. If it wasn't a rush, we wouldn't see so many people racing to do wrong and racing to live a certain type of way that's not unhealthy. That is unhealthy, unwholesome, and toxic. But sometimes it's like, hey, this ride is no longer fun, so I'm going to find a way to jump off. I may not have the solution today, but my mind is made up. My mind is made up. This is not the relationship that I want. This is not the friendship that I want. This is not the job that I want. And then from that point, God will begin to give you strategy because he's faithful. And just like the prodigal son, when he came to himself, the strategy was go back home. You never had to be out here like this anyway. You decided to do what you wanted to do, but there's safety back home. And what's so interesting when I read about the prodigal son, the beautiful part is that, while he was out there, all his money got wasted, right? So let's just say maybe he got hooked up with some prostitutes and some harlots and they took all his money, right? The very thing that he took to use out in the world was the same thing that got took from him. But when he came to himself and he went back home, he was immediately poured into. He was loved on and things of that nature. They didn't give him the sloppy seconds or thirds or fourth. They gave him the best when he returned, because the beautiful part was that he returned to himself. Codependency will take so much from you, so much time. You'll be sitting there trying to think about how to make another person money. Anything that you'll do for them just to be seen, noticed, heard, or validated. But we thank God for those moments where he allows the euphoria and the excitement and the adrenaline rush die down. It's no longer exciting. Like, wow, nothing I do makes her happy. It's a beautiful experience, because then you start getting sick of what used to make you happy. You start seeing the insanity in the route that you took. And it's freeing on the inside. You may not even be able to tell anybody else, like, hey, I'm getting out of this thing. Because other people can look at like, oh, they look so good and they look so happy. They look so happy at that job. And it's like, they're miserable. You have to come to the point in yourself where it's like, no, I'm really miserable. I'm genuinely not happy. Now, we know happiness is fleeting, but I'm the type of person, if I invite you into my life and into my space, you shouldn't be there to make me miserable. That's just a diabolical, demonic assignment for someone to come into your life. And the enemy will do that too. He will have you partner with someone who's on an agenda from hell to make your life miserable. And so at this point in my life, codependency with some people is miserable because they want you to show up all the time, and no matter what they're going through, they expect you to have on your circus and clown attire, ready to make them happy, jovial, and laugh. And sometimes it's not funny, but they need that moment. And then what they do is they take whatever you give them, whether it's insight, wisdom, revelation, or we know some people have sexual encounters. They take that and they do nothing with it. And so there is no change that takes place. There's no transformation in them, but the whole time they're just stealing so much from you, taking so much from you. And unfortunately, the enemy can blind people, and it'll be years down the road, and you'll think and wonder, what did I ever get out of this relationship? Besides sleepless nights, being told off, cussed out, treated like crap. Only when it made them feel good were they nice to me. The minute that I think about doing anything for myself, there's a problem. And so to that, I say that is a form of slavery. It's not even a form, it is slavery, where someone has bonded with you. And with those situations, it is so humbling. I mean, when I tell you that I realized what was going on in this friendship with this young woman, it was so it was humbling, but it was humiliating at the same time, because that person thinks that you're so stupid that you'll never realize that they're not there for your benefit. So unfortunately, that is a humiliating part, that they thought like they can keep you in something that's not healthy for you, not even healthy for them. Because the way that they depend, like the way that my friend depended on me, right? It was just, it was unnatural. Like, and I mean in a sense, like, you challenge me because I give you advice, but you're sitting on the phone because you want the advice, but when you get it, you're upset. Do you understand the insanity in that? So at the end of the day, it is the issue of insanity. And these situations can drive a person crazy, because it's like, wow, I thought you cared about me. I thought you might have my best interests at heart in certain instances. But God is so faithful. He will begin to pull back the layers. Like, this is how you got here because you took this step. And then they said this, what made you believe this. And now you're here because you think this person is the only person that loves you, when on the inside they actually hate you. And the only reason why they're staying around is so that you don't get to happiness. The only reason why they're staying around is so you do not do what's best for you, even if it means leaving them. So I have had a lot of codependent situations, a lot. And if I could look back, the only reason that I got a lot out of those situations is because the counsel that oftentimes I gave them, I took it for myself. I took it for myself. But unfortunately, when they didn't, they went around in cycles again. And when they came back to me, it's like we would talk about it again. But on this time and this go around, it's not the same, because now I realize this is codependency. And now God is allowing me to disconnect in several relationships and walk away from friendships that serve no purpose. If you can look at a person, and when you start to assess and evaluate, and all you get out of that relationship is someone taking from you, that can be a codependent relationship. Now, do not misunderstand me. I'm not talking about if you have a loved one that is sick, right? Because we know in instances people can't do anything for themselves and you're their caregiver. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people that are determined not to change. Like, God has allowed you to have a season with them to test their ability to transform. So he may have allowed you to be there, like, okay, let's try this. Let's see if this makes you happy. Let's see if this works. Let's see. And nothing works in that season. God will release you. He will tell you to humble yourself, because now he's going to show you what's really been going on. They are not determined to change. They are not determined to bond with you in a holy, but also healthy way. So because they're sick, they're going to keep you sick or try to make you sick if you're not already that way. Codependency is so harmful. You know, I was blessed to purchase myself a book a couple years ago. I was not ready for it. And then it got brought back around, because you know, whatever that you don't work on or come out of, you'll go back through it again. And so this time, God allowed my heart and spirit to become broken when I saw the magnitude of the inability of people to service me. Like, literally show genuine love without competition, without jealousy, without striving, without being passive aggressive, without nitpicking. And it was what helped me get delivered, because now I know those are not real relationships and friendships. And on top of those relationships no longer serve me. I cannot be friends with a selfish person. I cannot be in a close bond with someone that is selfish towards me. That's an associate. That's like somebody that you can go to work with and you guys sit next to each other. You don't share anything about your personal lives. You just work together. You just go and show up. And that's what a lot of relationships and friendships have felt like to me. But unfortunately, it was like I was like the supervisor or the manager, training them and giving them insight, and there was hardly anything they were able to give me. So now in this season of my life, we are looking for reciprocal relationships where we're interconnected. We're still depending on God, but I'm not codependent to where I am not being served or serviced at all. Understanding, okay, yes, you have to tell yourself, I do deserve love. I do deserve someone that cares if I get sleep during the week. I do deserve someone that is concerned if I eat and if I'm healthy. They could look at me and say, hey, you look a little tired. Why don't you go in there and lay down for a little bit? I got it. Like, you're okay. That's what type of person I want. You know why? Because that's intimacy. When a person can see in you, and especially if you're not saying anything, oh my God, that is just like so beautiful to me. For a man, if he sees a woman, okay, if they're married and she wants to cook dinner, he's like, nah, babe, you really look tired today. Not in a bad, disrespected type of, sense, but more so, I'm concerned about you. Let me take you out to eat. And if she's like, no, I don't want to go. Okay, let me make sure that you just eat. Let me purchase us some food. Let me go pick it up for you. It is supposed to be, relationships are meant to be partnerships, to where two people are concerned about each other. Not only if it's just intimate partner relationships, friendships as well. And so this is the time where pivotal changes are taking place. And it is time for you, if you have battled with codependency, to take up the time to care for yourself. You're going to need it because your identity has become so intertwined and enmeshed in that person and their unhappiness and their misery. When you come away and take time away, it is going to be for the purpose of you gaining your identity back, gaining your zest for life back, going to the things, I don't want to say back, but finding new habits, and even probably going back to some of the habits that you used to enjoy prior to. So, as always, I am always excited about the content that I share with you guys because it is life altering and life changing for me. I hope that if it's something in this podcast that was said, if you apply it to your life, it is going to be beneficial to help you change the trajectory of your life. You do deserve to be loved. You do deserve someone in your life that cares about you and is intentional about helping you implement self-care for yourself. That way, when you're fueled up, you can do the right healthy thing and then help other people, not from a place of being empty, but from a place of being fulfilled, knowing I have somebody in my life that really cares about me. And if I can't do it, maybe they'll help me. Maybe they come with different ideas and different perspectives, and I'm not always the one giving all the ideas of how we should make money, and I'm not always the one doing everything all the time. It feels good to have somebody in your life that loves and cares about you. And so I'm going to end it with this. I was scrolling the other day, and it was winter wherever it was because we haven't got snow yet, but the driveway and the yard was just packed with snow. And so the wife was outside, and she literally went down and did one line to clean up the snow, and she was on her way back, and her husband came out the door. He said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "What are you doing?" And he was like, "No, what are you doing?" She's like, "I'm out here shoveling. It snowed. The snow came." And he's like, "Okay, you don't do this. Like this, you don't do this." And she was like, "It's okay. It's okay." He was like, "No, I am the man. This is my responsibility." And then they got closer to each other. And she was like, "No, it's okay." He was like, "No, you are a married woman. You do not have to do this." She was like, "It's okay." He said, "No, I know you are used to taking care of yourself, but I take care of you now." And it was so touching. I mean, it even makes me emotional just thinking about it because she was out there because I'm pretty sure that was something that she had to do or probably did do when she didn't have anybody that cared about her. She had to do everything herself. But when she married this man, He's like, hey, I see you. I don't have a problem with doing this. Please just, it was like they were begging each other to serve each other. And then he told her, he said, no, you're going to go inside. You're going to get warm. You're going to get some hot chocolate and you're going to relax and let me do it. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. And he came outside. He had his clothes on and everything. He was literally ready to start shoveling the snow. But the fact that they cared about each other enough to say, no, I'll do it. And he said, no, I'll do it. And then he said, no, let me do it for you. Let me break down these barriers that you have put up in your spirit to, you have to do everything. Codependency, when it's in a full effect, nobody's going to shovel your snow for you. Nobody's going to offer to shovel your snow. But you need someone that is going to offer and even sometimes tell you, you cannot shovel this by yourself. This is not a problem you can take on by yourself. Codependency causes you to put up roadblocks and barriers for people that will help you. Self-love and self-care opens the door to understand I'm not less of a person, less of a woman, or less of a man if I do allow someone to help me and or give me what I need. So, thank you so much, guys, for tuning into today's episode of The Dialogue. It is my hope that something that was said on here benefited your soul and your spirit and gave you clarity to make better decisions in regards to you and your life and your journey and what God wants for you. It is my prayer that He brings people along your path that help you see you more clearly. And as you see yourself more clearly, you're able to see more of God in you to live freely. Our mantra is that we're healing souls one conversation at a time. I hope you have a great day. Please don't forget to follow for more content. Share this with someone so you guys can talk about it. And we will be back with more content at a later date. Bye, guys.